In this video, we're going to be going over polymerization reactions. So effectively what a polymer is a long chain of repeating subunits, which we call monomers. So absolutely, you should know what a polymer is, and monomers, you could just think of them as effectively the repeating building blocks that builds up a polymer. Okay, so if you wanted to relate it to something that's a little bit more tangible, you could think of a string of paper clips that are linked together. Like the entire string is like the polymer, and the individual paper clips are the monomers. Okay, so when you're looking at a polymer, okay, and you're trying to pick out what the monomers are, you're effectively just looking for what are the repeating sequences here. So in this polymer, I'm noticing that this section shows up over and over again. Okay, so this would be one of our monomers. Okay, and over here, this is another repeating subsection. So this is our second monomer. Oh, we'll say monomer number 1, monomer number 2. Now, there's a few different types of polymerization reactions that can occur. Okay, so the first one being addition polymerization. So that's a reaction in which you have an alkene monomers and they're joined together through multiple addition reactions in order to form a polymer. So for example, ethene monomers undergo addition polymerization reactions to form polyethylene. Okay, so polyethylene is just another word for plastic. Okay, so effectively what's happening in these reactions is we're changing the double bond into a single bond. And you're forming a new carbon-carbon bonds, not just one new carbon-carbon bond. Between monomers. Okay, so that's what's happening in this example with the formation of polyethylene. Okay, so notice how our beginning monomers, okay, they both have a double bond, but that double bond gets converted into a single bond as the new kind of linkages or the new carbon-carbon bonds are forming. Okay, so these two carbons here used to be these two carbons there, and these two carbons here were these two carbons there. Okay, and as we add more monomers, the carbon chain just gets longer and longer and longer to form the polymer. Okay, so other examples of polymers that are formed through addition polymerization would be polystyrene. So styrene, which is right here, is the monomer, and if you put enough of those together, you get polystyrene, okay, which we know as styrofoam. So that can be used as insulation and as packaging. Okay, so what you'll need to understand from this is you'll need to understand different polymerization reactions and how they apply in real life. Okay, So another example of a polymer formed by addition polymerization would be PVC or polyvinyl chloride. So the monomer is this, and as you can see, this is a polymer. Okay, so we use PVC pipes in construction materials, sewage pipes, and as well as medical equipment. Okay. So condensation polymerization, actually did we highlight? Yeah, you should know these different types of reactions. Okay, so condensation polymerization, so the word condensation, that tells you immediately that water is being produced. Okay, polymerization tells you a polymer is being produced also. So basically, two products, water and the polymer, are going to be produced here. Okay, so this is where monomers are combined through multiple condensation reactions to form a polymer. A second smaller product, which is usually water, is also produced in the reaction. For condensation polymerization to occur, each monomer must have two functional groups, one at the end of each of the molecule. Okay, so with this, and with this example in particular, okay, one side has a carboxylic acid, and the other side has an alcohol group. Okay. So this is very similar to our esterification reaction, where we were chopping out water and we were taking the OH group from the carboxylic acid and the hydrogen from the alcohol and chopping it out to produce water and creating a new carbon to oxygen bond. Okay, so let's just write out what I said. So we're removing OH from the carboxylic acid, and we're removing hydrogen from the alcohol group. Okay. So notice here, water is one of our products, okay, and we have the ester linkage. Okay, so by ester linkage, they're saying, you know, obviously this is the ester functional group here, okay, but this is the new bond formed between this carbon and this oxygen. Okay. And again, let's just write out what I'm saying here. One of the most common mistakes is to forget for your esterification reactions is to forget to put water as one of your products. Okay, so I do understand that this is a condensation polymerization reaction. However, that's a common mistake between both condensation polymerization reactions as well as esterification. All right, so some examples of natural polymers would be amino acids, which undergo condensation to form polymers. Okay, so with amino acids, you could think of them as the monomer. Okay, the polymer would be proteins. Okay, so you have multiple amino acids joining together in order to form proteins, which is the polymer. Okay, so an amino acid is a carboxylic acid with an amino group, which is NH2. So this would be an example of an amino acid. Okay. When the amino group of one molecule aligns with the carboxyl group, so as a reminder, when we say carboxyl, this is the functional group we're talking about, that COOH functional group of another molecule, water is removed and an amide bond is formed. Okay, so the amide bond or the amide linkage, that's this part right here. Okay, so essentially what they're doing is they're chopping out water, or they're removing water to form a bond between this nitrogen and this carbon. So that's that new bond that's forming right there. Okay, and we get that amide linkage. Okay. So nylon, that's going to be an example of a synthetic material that's made from polymers of amino acids. So here we've got a structure of nylon 6. Okay, they're showing us amide bonds. Okay, like, do you need to know what an amide bond is or amide linkage is? No. However, do you need to know that proteins are nature's polymers and amino acids are the monomers? Yes, you do. Okay. For nylon, okay, you need to know that nylon is going to be the polymer, okay, and it's used in tires, synthetic fibers, used to make ropes and clothing, that sort of thing. Like, you should know the usage of these polymers. So amino acids can also connect to make proteins. In a protein, amide linkages are called peptide bonds. Okay. Hydrolysis reactions. They're effectively the opposite of condensation synthesis. Okay, so what is condensation synthesis? Basically, you're producing some product, and we know for sure that water is going to be one of our products. Okay. So you remove water. From reactants to produce water and another product. Okay. So that is a condensation synthesis. What a hydrolysis reaction is when you add water to break bonds. Okay. So again, the main idea that you need to know behind polymerization reactions is you should be able to define, illustrate, provide examples of monomers and polymers and polymerization in living systems and non-living systems. So the different types of reactions that we just talked about, you should be able to identify monomers within a polymer, or you should be able to say this monomer is used to make this polymer. Okay.